How bad could it really be if I tried to finish my physical TBR by the end of the year? Like, how difficult would that really be? Hello, I'm going to try and finish my physical TBR before the end of the year. Emphasis on the try there. Real emphasis on the try. I've got a mad cat running around, bear with me. I have 17 books left on my physical TBR. I keep them on a little cart down there normally, but they're just to my left. Look, that was my right, but ignore it. Look, this is done. This is the remainder of this year's physical TBR. It's quite a few books. It's quite a few, but I'm sick of looking at them. I've not been reading a lot lately. I've been a little bit slumpy, which means that my TBR has not been going down as quickly as I would like it to, despite the fact that I have pretty much only read books that I own for the last couple of months. So I would really like to not have to see any of these books starting in 2025. So I'm going to see how many I can get through. 17 books is a number of books that I have read in a month before. If I tag team like audio, ebook, physical, I can usually get that done. You cannot climb this tower, my dude. You've just knocked one over. You can't. Nope, not the books. Thank you. Like I could. I have done it in the past. I have read 17 books in a month. Have I been in that mental headspace recently? No, not at all. Not even a little bit. Do I like taking on mad challenges? Yeah, I do. Do I have a really high DNF rate? Yes. And that might help me out, but that's not to say that I'm deliberately going out of my way to DNF books, because that takes all the fun out of it. I want to see if I like these books. Yeah, I'm coming in here with good faith. I want to try and finish these books. I'm not picking them up again. I was going to go pick them up again. So let me tell you what's on my list, shall I? Let's start with the most recent one. I get a gold star if I can do this before she knocks over the stack, because it's precarious. This one just arrived in the post. This is A Wild and Ruined Song by Ashley Shuttleworth. This is book 4 in the Hollow Star series, and if I tell you what it's about, I will spoil the series, but it is the only YA series I'm still in the middle of and still quite enjoying. It's urban fantasy with fae elements, alchemy elements. It's very queer, non-binary rep, disability rep. Pretty sure there's trans rep in there too. It's very inclusive, it's very complex, and it's just a bit of a romp as well. There is romance in here. It is very slow burn romance, which is why I'm enjoying it, because they're not just jumping straight into bed with each other, which is lovely. I didn't love book 3. I adored books 1 and 2. Book 2 had me literally gasping at the end, but book 4 has got a lot riding on it. So we'll see. We'll see if I'm still the kind of person that enjoys this series, because I started this like 4 years ago, this series, and I have changed as a person quite a lot since then. Next we have The Trouble with Mrs. Montgomery Hurst by Katie Lumsden, who is a lovely booktuber that I follow on here. This is her second book. I have not read the first, but I found this in Waterstones when I was doing my big birthday book haul, and I need to get around to reading this. I will state that none of these books are on here because they're off-putting to me. It's mostly because I've just been slumpy and not gotten around to them, or I've been feeling kind of like antagonistic towards reading, so I have a very short fuse with what I would consider a DNFable offence, if that makes sense. So I didn't want to pick up books that I thought would have potential for me to enjoy them if I was in a slightly better mood. Why she is zooming now, I don't know, but it's driving me mental. We have Mr. Richard Osman. I love The Thursday Murder Club. This is not The Thursday Murder Club. This is his next book that is a completely different series that he has paused The Thursday Murder Club to write. I have put aside my annoyance at the fact that he has paused Thursday Murder Club to write this book, and we're going to try it because I do really enjoy his writing. He is an incredible writer. He knows what he's doing. It's on the list. The first of a few Pratchetts. This is Winter Smith. This is one of the We Free Men stories. I have read the We Free Men a very long time ago, so I might just do a quick wiki of like where we're at by this point in the story, because I don't think I've read this one. This is on my particularly Christmas reading list because I had 4 books that were particularly Christmassy, so I wanted to read them in December anyway, so now they're just on the list. This is number 1. This is number 2. This is the 3rd in the Benjamin Stevenson series, Everyone This Christmas Has a Secret. I haven't read the second one yet. The second one is also on this list. I probably should have said that one first, it just wasn't in order. These two are on my list. This is the second Christmas one. The first book in the series is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. It's a locked room murder mystery. It's meta and fourth wall breaking. The protagonist is also the narrator, who is also a crime novelist. I might be remembering that wrong, but this one's set on a train. This one's set at Christmas. That's as much as I know about them. and I love the first one enough that I'm just going to go straight into it. Next on the Pratchett and the Christmas list, Hogfather. This is a death book. I've only ever read Mort, so I'm really hoping I don't have to read the other ones before this one, because I think this one is like the third or fourth in the death books for Pratchett. Not been having a good time with Pratchett recently, but I also haven't read one of the death series in a while, so I'm hoping that will shake things up a little bit. May do some Wikipediaing if I need to. Lady Eve's Last Con. I believe it's a sapphic heist in space. Yeah, sapphic heist in space. That's what sold me. It was on my TBR for ages and I got it for my birthday book haul. I have an arc of Modern Divination because the paperback is coming out in January, so I need to read this anyway. It's really big, but Modern Divination has been on my TBR for ages. Still excited about it, just not got there yet. The Virgin Suicides by, what's his name? Jeffrey Eugenides. That's Greek. This was recommended to me by one of George's friends, John. Hello, John, if you're watching this. I haven't got around to reading this yet because George hasn't gotten around to the book that he was supposed to read, because George hasn't read anything since March, which is why there's not been any more boyfriend book swaps, because we've been working on different priorities, and that's okay. But I am going to read this one and I'll hold my opinions for that vlog, but it's on the list. I am going to read this. Then we have Long Live Evil, which is lovely and shiny, by Sarah Rees Brennan. This kept getting recommended on Instagram, so I caved and I bought it. And it's kind of Nils' fault. Nils from the Fantasy Hive. It's your fault I bought this. This is about a terminally ill girl, I believe, who is transported to a fantasy land where suddenly she is the villain and she gets to be the bad guy, and she just sort of revels in that for a bit, which sounds fun. So it's on my list. Another Pratchett, Raising Steam. I've read the first couple in this series. That's as far as I've got. But that looks like a goblin, so I'm really hoping there's goblins in this one. I could do with some Pratchett goblins. This is Momenticon by Andrew Caldecott. I have seen this book so many times in shops, and it's the second one that really draws me in because it's got lots of like Escher staircases, and I bloody love an Escher. So obviously I have to read the first one to get to the second one. It sounds like it's going to be slightly sarcastic, mind-numbing, confusing sort of situations. This might be an audiobook one, just to be on the safe side. Oh, it's dystopian. Yeah, I really ought to look up what these books are about before I buy them. Next one, Kaikei by Vaishnavi Patel. This was recommended loads by Sid from Bookworm, and I caved and I got it because it's a girl power book, I believe. And I do like me a girl power book. Is that the Last Christmas one? This is the Last Christmas one. This is Krampus by Brom. I absolutely adored Slewfoot when I read it, and so I had to wait until Christmas to read Krampus. Of course. Don't know what the plot's about, but I'm assuming it involves Krampus. Then we have Soulless by Gail Carriger. I was recommended this by Storygraph. I don't think I've ever actually taken Storygraph up on any of their specific recommendations to me, apart from this one. This is Gaslamp Fantasy with vampires and werewolves and parasols, which is normally really good, but I did DNF a very similar book, which I thought was this book. It's a long story. Check my Alphabet Challenge vlog for the details. But I am going to read this, even though I slightly kind of lost the oomph a little bit because of the DNF of the other one that I thought was this one. I might be biased now, but hey ho. And then we've got the one I've already started, which is Bad Cree by Jessica Johns. This is about a Cree girl who has horrific dreams, and she ends up bringing back some of those objects from her dreams. Like, she'll wake up with the twigs in her hands or the crow's head that she snapped off in her dreams. Her sister died a year ago and she's being haunted by these dreams, and her sister appears in them and they're fucking her up, and it's a horror, and that's about as much as I know. There's lots of crows in it. I'm enjoying it so far, but that's it. That's all the books I'm going to see if I can read before the end of the year, because I don't have to worry about vlogs for the first chunk of this month. So now I'm hoping I can just polish off this TBR and I can do a little haul for Christmas. I've got a couple of books I do want if I don't get them for Christmas presents. And if I get those, then I'll have a nice short TBR that I'm actually excited for to come into 2025 with. And that would be lovely. So there we go. I'll update you once I finish some of these books or DNF them. But if I DNF them, I won't be talking about why I've DNF'd them. I will just tell you, because all my DNFs now will be going to Patreon exclusive vlogs at the end of every month. So I will do wrap-ups on here and I will do DNF wrap-ups on my Patreon now. I'm hoping I've already put up the announcement when I post this, but we are going to have a little Goblin Gang over there for anyone that wants to form a little like cute fantasy community to talk about reading and writing or whatever floats your boat. But yeah, DNF wrap-ups are going to be one of the things that I have over there, and I'm really excited for it. I'll see you when I've read some books. I am not very well, so I have been treating myself to some British tapas to try and cheer myself up. But what I have done is I have managed to finish 3 books. So I will start by saying I finished The Virgin Suicides, but like I said before, I won't tell you what I thought about this. Don't eat my food, cat. I'm not going to tell you what I thought until I film the boyfriend book swap with George. If you still haven't seen that by the time this comes out and you know George, please message him and tell him to read his book so we can finish this video. Thank you. What I will say is that the reviews for this book are very polarised. They are either huge love for it or huge hate for it. I fall very firmly within one of those camps. And if you know me well, I think you can guess which one that is. And I'll leave that there. Then I finished Lady Eve's Last Con. I listened to the audiobook of this and it's a good audiobook, would recommend. This is a sapphic romp of a heist book through space. Yeah, that's what that is. Potentially bi, but it's not said in so many words that I can remember. I did really enjoy this. I enjoyed this about as much as I thought I was going to enjoy it, which was like quite a lot, but it didn't like blow my socks off or anything. It's just exactly what it says it's going to be. It's not a heist book. What am I talking? It's kind of a heist book. It's a con. She's a con artist. Our main protagonist is a con artist who is trying to avenge her sister who fell for this rich guy while they were pulling a different con, got pregnant by him, and then he abandoned her when he realised that she was a con artist. So Ruth has come back to try and get money out of this man because he's impregnated her sister and done nothing about it by pretending to be this rich socialite and getting in his pants, basically. It does dip a little bit in the middle. I think there were a few wishy-washy filler scenes that I could have done without. I could have done with a little more action. It does get quite actiony towards the end, but there's a lot of like suitably glitzy, glamorous scenes. There's lots of descriptions of like clothes and what they're wearing and exactly how she is conning this man into believing that she is this completely other person. Very good. And then I literally just about 20 minutes ago finished Bad Cree by Jessica Johns. This was one of the books that was sitting on my TBR and I was a little bit worried that I was going to hate it because sometimes horror can be a little bit hit or miss for me. But this is suitably creepy, lots of intrigue, and just a really lovely depiction of family and like how complicated families can be and like the little steps you have to take to get off your high horse in order to foster those relationships with your family and to explore what you mean to each other and what you have and haven't said and the danger of keeping secrets. And there's like a healthy dose of supernatural horror, which is, it just really fucking creeped me out because I'm currently home alone and it's quite dark. But this is a solid horror book. I think I rated it a 4.25. It was like, I would hugely recommend. I really enjoyed the indigenous rep and the taste of the Cree culture that we got in this because I know nothing about that, and it was a really lovely medium to learn about it in that way. And I would happily read so many more of her books if she has written some. I haven't looked it up yet, but yes, suitably creepy. I would love it if this was turned into a film. I think that would make a really interesting film. Given that this was the last book that I finished and before that it was The Virgin Suicides, I need to lighten things up a little bit or I'm going to be fucking miserable. So I'm going to be diving into Everyone on This Train as a Suspect because the last book he wrote was fucking hilarious and I need him to be really funny again because I am miserable and not very well right now and I just need something fun. So I've got my cross stitch. I'm gonna get this on Libra FM and give it a listen and do some cross stitch and maybe paint my nails first in some kind of order and just generally have a nice time. Audiobooks are absolutely killing it for me at the moment to get these books read. I've been playing a lot of Stardew Valley. I've been doing a lot of cross stitch and I've been listening to audiobooks on my commute and that is how I'm getting so much read. I really enjoy it. I haven't listened to this many audiobooks in a while and it's really nice to not have to work out what music I want to listen to and just listen to a story instead. So I will continue on with that and I'm really hoping I'm not quite so ill when I next see you. That would be nice. Fingers crossed. We've got our first 5-star of the vlog and I couldn't be more excited about it. Kaikei is just a perfect story of Kei, because she is the protagonist, of a princess, essentially, who is married off into another kingdom, has sons, and it's her life in court and dealing with enemies encroaching on territories and the political intrigue and her magic powers that allow her to influence others in small ways. And it's just so wonderful. I thought the imagery around the magic system was so simple and easy to understand, and yet so clever the way that it was used all the way through. I loved the twist at the end. And I have a cat in my lap. Hello. And I devoured this audiobook in the last 2 days, and I could not recommend this more strongly. If you like epic fantasy that is full of political intrigue, that makes this culture so easy to understand and to appreciate, if you want to feel rage at the misogyny, at the unfairness and the deeply enraging situations that she is forced into because of her gender, because of her birth, because of the actions of others that she had no part in at all. 5-star. I've started getting into the habit of like breaking my ratings down into like characters, vibes and settings, and then doing a total, doing an average and that being my rating. But this is just a 5-star. I'm not doing that. This is like, I wholeheartedly feel this is a 5-star. Audiobook was definitely the way to go. I think I would have stumbled over some of the pronunciations and that would have bogged me down a little bit. But I love this. I love this book so much. And next year, a lot of people will be getting it for Christmas. I am still reading Everyone on This Train as a Suspect. It's over there. I'm about a quarter of the way through. I am enjoying it, but I audiobooked this and I have done a lot of things where I can just listen to audiobooks. So I finished that first, but I am enjoying Everyone on This Train as a Suspect, and I will get back to you as soon as I have finished that. The label on this shirt is really itchy, but I'm not going to be able to cut it off without taking it off. No, I'm already here. DNF Soulless. Start the audiobook. Not for me. If you want details, check the DNF wrap up on my Patreon at the end of the month. I did also finish Everyone on This Train as a Suspect. It's not quite a 5-star, but it's very, very close. I'm gonna say maybe a 4.5 to a 4.75. I can't quite place it yet. I haven't done my little breakdown where I average ratings. But this is very good. This is just as good as the first one. I think I would put them very happily like on equal pedestals. There is no sequel syndrome here. It's fantastic. It's just very good. It did confuse me at the end. This is not a spoiler. There's a snippet of the first book in the back of this book, but you kind of need to have read the first book to understand a chunk of the stuff in this book. I guess it's not like that important. To me, this is the second in the series. This is not just like the second book that this author has written and therefore you can read them out of order. Like you have to read the first one first in my head. Like, things make more sense that way. But yeah, I'm just very pleased with it. Like, I finished it about 4 minutes ago. So, very good, well done. Once again, I just let myself get swept up in the mystery. Like, he's very good at talking you through exactly how things are happening without spoiling anything, but while still also dangling, like, hefty clues in front of you. So, for people who actually try and work out the mystery, I can imagine this might not be quite so fulfilling, maybe? I don't know. I'm not one of those people, so I can't speak to it. I'm one of those people that just want to be swept along and have like revealed in my face, and I go, wow, oh, that's so confusing because like I wasn't paying attention, and that's I never saw that coming because I wasn't looking for it. And it's just so much more enjoyable that way. Hugely recommend. Very similar vibe of writing to Richard Osman, except it's first person for one narrator the whole way through, and it's just very good. It's very good. I am very tempted to move straight on to the Christmas one, but I made a purchase yesterday that is going to affect that decision, and I will show you now. I'm going to peel the price off because I'm slightly ashamed by how much I bought these for. It's a Dark Crystal Tarot deck, and you may not know this. Was I holding that upside down? No, the back is just upside down. Okay. I have a tarot spreadsheet of book prompts, like TBR choice prompts based on tarot cards. So I'm going to use my new deck to try and pick the next read from the TBR that we already established. But I want to use my shiny new tarot deck. I bloody love the Dark Crystal. It is one of my favorite. It's Augur's Eye. And one of the staffs Oh, so that's the Skeksis stuff and that's the Mystic stuff. Oh, I need to rewatch the Dark Crystal. I need to do that soon. I also need scissors to get into this. You know what I really like about this art is that it looks like it's hand printed. Oh, that's the back. And he's the fool. Yes, he is. This is 100% my new favourite tarot deck. The art is by Thomas Hijo. They also had a Labyrinth one and a Lord of the Rings one, and I couldn't justify buying all of them because they're 25 quid each, or at least they were in the shop that I bought them down in Glastonbury. I'd already spent quite a lot of money. I couldn't justify 2 more tarot decks. I already have 2 tarot decks and I don't use them anywhere near enough, but I could not pass up the Dark Crystal one. The prompts that I have are based on like having a much bigger TBR. So if any prompts that I pick don't reference a book that I can choose from the last of my physical TBR, then I will just keep picking cards until I get one that works. Anyway, right, I'm going to cut the deck and it's going to be the 6 of stones. Probably should have looked up what the suits are. They are different. So we've got shards, vials, stones and gems. So we'll just do that in the same order. So shards is wands, vials is swords, stones is cups, gems is pentacles. So cups, what was it, the 6? 6 of Cups. Read a Fantasy Hive recommendation. That is an immediate recommendation for Long Live Evil. This is recommended to me by Nils from the Fantasy Hive. This is my next read. Easy. Lovely. I have finished 2 books and I have DNF'd 2 books, which means this is it. This is all I've got left of that original stack. It's pretty good. I do not have the spoons to break down what I've read in DNF for you just a second. I will do that in the next clip, but I do want to know what to pick next. So I'm just going to draw a card for my tarot prompt and see if that gives me a book, because I'm not really sure which of these I want to go for. I've got 2 Terry Pratchett's left. I thought I only had 1. No, I've got 2. Let's pull a card. Christ. Okay. Oh, I think that's going to be it. What's this one? So it's the 8 of Shards, which I'm calling the equivalent of wands, just because it's the first to appear in the book and it's the first to appear on my little spreadsheet. So number 8, flip to a, oh, we've had this one before. Flip to a random page in a D&D source book. Read a book with similar vibes to the page content. Okay. I have picked Descent into Avernus because it's a Baldur's Gate one, and I didn't realise we had this. I think this is George's. So let me just like break up the pages a little bit. That one. Ooh, Zariel's Flying Fortress. How to infiltrate the fortress. Cat, do you mind? And that is it. That's the fortress. It's very red. Okay, maybe I go with something red. Let's remind ourselves of options. Okay, so this colour scheme would go with it. This also has red on the front. That really does look like it belongs with that picture. Hogfather doesn't really do it for me. I don't think Modern Divination or Regency Romance really covers that. Now, Mementicon is dystopian. Survivors live in domes protected by chitin shields. Is it chitin? I've always said chitin. And 7 One Another of the Last 2 Great Companies. The Museum Dome. I don't know. I thought it was a bit more futuristic than that. And Raising Steam, I mean, you could argue like industrial buildings, maybe. But I think I'm leaning towards this. I think that is the closest we're going to get to Zariel's Flying Fortress. It's also like fantasy as well. That feels like the best fit for me. Yeah, we're going to go with that. Ratty is big. Ratty, say hi! Right. We have 5 books to cover now. So, in the last clip, I said I had read 2 and DNF'd 2. The 2 that I DNF'd Long Live Evil, which is sad. All I will say in this vlog is that it was sold to me as adult, and it didn't feel like that. And also, the story within a story thing wasn't done well enough for me to want to keep reading. That's all I'm going to say for now. I then DNF'd A Wild and Ruined Song, which I think I should have seen coming. This is a YA series that I started many years ago now and is still going. This is book 4 in the series, and I didn't love how book 3 ended. And it turns out I didn't love how book 4 picked up. So That's that one. And then I DNF Raising Steam as well. In my head, Pratchett was one of those authors who could write pretty much anything and I would probably enjoy it. The more that I am reading from him, the more I'm realising that is not true. This is ostensibly, I said, it's a book about trains. I could not give a flying fuck about trains. Like, not even a little bit. The only thing that was keeping me going with this one was the goblins, and there weren't enough goblins in it. So there we go. The book I did finish, though, I did finish a Pratchett. I finished Wintersmith by Terry Pratchett. Probably because it was YA and it was a lot easier to read. I will say this was a 400-page book. It should have been about 300 pages. There was no reason for it to be 400 pages long. That was insane. Completely unnecessary on that front. I love my witches. So this was like a predictable win for me, but also there was a lot of fluff in the middle that did things for flavour, but also felt like filler. And it was tough to tug myself through that. So I finished it. I enjoyed parts of it. I would recommend it to other people, but I'm not loving Pratchett at the moment, which is a shame because I've still got one left to read, and I'm not optimistic I'm gonna love that one now either. I've got Hogfather left, which is death, so it's a little like, it's a bit different, but also I don't know, Pratchett was always like a solid author that I could rely on, and the more I read, the less I'm enjoying his books, and it's just really sad and it's disappointing. Maybe I just need to take a break from Pratchett and bring him down off that pedestal that I've kind of put him on in my head, and then we'll try him again and we'll give him a fair go of it and see how we get on. That might be the way forward. I also finished Everyone This Christmas Has a Secret by Benjamin Stevenson. It's the third, technically 2.5 in the Ernest Cunningham series by Benjamin Stevenson. This was exactly what you would expect from a Christmas special of a like Saki murder mystery series. It was exactly what I wanted. I loved that it was 200 pages, but there were a couple of things where it was like, well, what, that doesn't make logical sense. Why would he do that other than to push the plot forward? Wasn't as good as the first two, but the first two are brilliant. I'm going to try letting the cat back in because I don't know if you can hear her. She is crying through that door. That means that I only have 5 books left in this challenge. It is currently the 8th of December and I feel like I've pushed myself a little bit too hard with this. So I'm going to take a break. I'm just going to not read anything for like a week and then we'll come back to those 5 books. They're quite chunky books. I started The Trouble with Mrs. Montgomery Hearst and I like it so far, but I'm also feeling that like sense in the back of my head where I'm going to DNF things at a drop of a hat. Like my tolerance for anything that is not exactly how I want it is really, really low at the moment. So to be fair to these books, I'm just going to give myself a week-long break from reading and we're going to calm down. We're going to calm down because I think I panicked and was like, oh my God, I can read 17 books in a month, in a good month. And I forgot that my DNF rate is like 40% when it comes to vlogs like this. So I made that number up. I would really like to work out what my DNF rate is for stuff like this. I think that would be really interesting. But yes, I will see you when I finish another book. Couldn't tell you what that's going to be at this stage in the vlog. We'll see how we go. I've got 5 books to talk to you about because I just kept reading and wasn't in the mood to film anything. So now we're here. I've DNF'd Montgomery Hearst and I've DNF'd Krampus and I'm sad about both. I have finished We Solve Murders. It wasn't as good as the Thursday Murder Club, and so in my head I think I'm remembering it as being a lot worse than it was. It wasn't that bad. It was like it was a decent thriller. I don't read a lot of thrillers, but it was a decent thriller. I really enjoyed the relationship between Amy and her father-in-law. I thought that was a really interesting character dynamic you don't see a lot and an interesting way to play it. I really, really love the way that Richard Osman writes characters. I think that is what he nails on the head every single time he comes out with a book. He just gets it. He understands humans and how they communicate and what they want and their motivations and their emotions and their greed and their reactions. Like all of that he nails. All of his characters are such individuals and are mostly easy to tell apart. He does have a habit of using slightly old-fashioned British names, and in my head they kind of all roll together as one. So there's like Steve and Joe and Bob and Tim and like all names like that. I don't actually remember if any of those are correct. Steve is the father-in-law, I remember that, but there were lots of slightly similar names that are just like typical British men's names. and in my head they all get a bit jumbled together. So I got a bit confused about who was who, but I think that was more of a me problem than it was a him problem. The story was very fast paced. It just kept going, like it didn't give you any time to think about it, and I did have to sort of take a step back and try and remember what was chugging the plot along, if that made sense, because they were going this place and going that place and doing this and doing that, and I couldn't quite pinpoint why they were doing that all the time. So I think that I can't tell if that was a me flaw or a him flaw. I would absolutely recommend this book to people that enjoy thrillers. I would recommend it to people that enjoyed Thursday Murder Club. There are still old people shenanigans in this book, just much less, because they're not the main characters. Overall, enjoyed it, but I think it was always not going to be as good as the Thursday Murder Club for me, so that is downside for it. How else was I phrase that? I finished Hogfather. I listened to the audiobook of Hogfather. This also was much longer than it needed to be. I had a really hard time working out what the plot was of this one, because there are 3 or 4 separate groups of people that we kept jumping between, like Pratchett does. One of which was Death, trying to be Santa Claus. One of which was the assassins, who had ostensibly offed Santa Claus. We were also following Death's granddaughter, and we were also following some wizards, and then some other people cropped up in different places as well. And I was having a really hard time working out how they all interconnected until literally the last 20 pages when it all sort of fell together. It was confusing. It was longer than it needed to be. It was funny. Like, it was fine. It was fine. This whole book was just fine. Did I like it more or less than Wintersmith? I don't know, because they're very different books with very different characters. I prefer being back in Ankh-Morpork, I think, and I preferred being with Death, and I thought there were some interesting things joked about when it comes to Christmas and death and things like that. There are a couple of quite dark moments, but I think that does crop up in the Death books because Death. I read it and it happened, and that's a thing, and now I have it on my shelf. Like, that is the extent of what I feel for that book. It was suitably Christmassy. If you're a fan of Pratchett and want a Christmassy read, try Hogfather. It's seasonally appropriate. I just really don't think I have anything more to say about that book. Oh no, I have something to say about the audiobook, because I audiobooked it. I absolutely loathe the way that they're dealing with the footnotes in the audiobook, because so they have one person as the narrator, and then one person narrates Death, and then Bill Nighy does the footnotes. Now, for one thing, Bill Nighy, not a great voice actor. For another thing, they do a weird twinkle before he says the footnote, and then a weird twinkle afterwards. So you're waiting like 3 times as long as you need to get the information. It's very disconnected, because also it's a female narrator, and then Bill Nighy's male voice comes in after these twinkles. But it was also recorded on such a different quality of microphone. It sounds like I recorded it on my shitty phone, which for a professional recording, I kind of expect more. I wonder if they just did a deal with Bill Nighy or something. Because I love Bill Nighy as an actor. I think he's fantastic. As a voice actor, I think he's pants. And it made no sense to me why the footnotes would be read by a different person than the narrator of the book. That didn't make any sense to me. And this is not the first Pratchett audiobook I've had this with either, and it bothers the shit out of me to the point where I kind of don't want to listen to Pratchett audiobooks if they've got that combination of characters. Peter Serafinowicz as Death was great. The lady Sian Clifford, who narrated most of it, great, fantastic. They did a great job. Bill Nighy, clunky, really off-putting, didn't love it. And then the last book that I just finished today was Mementicon, and part of me feels like I need to sit down before I try and unpick what this book was about. It is the most baffling, insipidly... I don't have the words for this book yet. This is a dystopian novel where the world has been overtaken by the murk, which is like a giant poisonous gas cloud, so everyone dies unless they're under Chitin or Chitin or whatever shields. 2 companies rule the earth. One is obsessed with science, one is obsessed with art. This man, Fogg, is locked in this dome, which is a museum full of all the art, like paintings and drawings and things like that have been saved from the apocalypse, essentially. And then Mementicons are pills that make you hallucinate that you are in the art, depending on which Mementicon you take. And there's a plot that I frankly did not understand, where they're daunting about in paintings and around paintings. I got the impression they were basically constructs, but they were constructs of people in books, and because it's real world as well, it was referencing Alice in Wonderland, it's referencing the different arts like Vermeer's and Bruegel, and I've forgotten literally all of the other names. But you also had like the Mad Hatter and Tweedledum and Tweedledee running around, and you had Slithy Toves, which were zombies running around attacking people as well. They were like soldiers for these companies. I just got very confused. There were lots of people in this book. There was no diversity. There was only a little element of intrigue the whole way through because it was just so sodding confusing. The author told us basically everything. There was not a lot of showing going on, so I just felt like I was being tugged along on a little string the whole time. I thought I was enjoying it until the middle section, which is why I didn't DNF it. I considered DNFing from like 60% onwards, and in the end just didn't, for reasons that I'm not entirely sure, because I didn't get the payout that I was kind of hoping for. It was unnecessary romance, zero diversity. Did I say that already? Just didn't understand what was going on. Characters were conveniently wherever they needed to be, regardless of how the mechanics in this world work. I don't know. This was just a confusing book, man. I'm not going to read the second one. I'm done with this series. Like, I was interested in like the Jabberwocky and stuff on the cover of the second book, and now I just don't want to know. I just don't want to know. I don't think I love dystopian books at the best of times, and I kind of was interested to see where like the art and the literature side of the thing was going, like pulling these characters out into real life, and then it didn't really go anywhere, and I don't care enough to try and explore that in the rest of the series. So kind of a bummer of a note to end this on, but I did it. I finished my TBR. It is currently the 17th of December, so I massively underestimated how much I could read. Out of the 16 books that I tried to read, I DNF 6, which is nearly 40%. So I'm about right with my 40% DNF rate. There you go. There's a stat for you. I am now very pleased that that stack of books is gone, and I can just pick books from my lovely new refreshed cart, and I'm just going to go and enjoy some books that I think I'm going to enjoy reading and carry on. I'm just going to carry on. Maybe I'll take a break from reading today. Momenticon really fucked up my brain. It was just baffling. Have you read any of these books? Do you agree with anything that I have said about these books? Do you want to go and pick up any of these books because I have mentioned them or talked about them? Do let me know. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff if you want to support this channel, and my Patreon is linked down in the description if you want to go check that out as well. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Compass.